Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I'm going to be your presenter today. Hopefully everybody can hear me loud and clear. It is promptly 1 p.m. Eastern Time here. We're going to go ahead and get started momentarily. We're here to talk about how to handle an NSF donation gift. It says check, but frankly, any gift that was recorded in donations as an NSF is an NSF or was insufficient when we tried to clear the check would be pretty much handled in exactly the same way. Handling a donation check. Now, normally we enter a donation, we post it as part of the batch, we transfer it all into accounting. It shows up on our bank reconciliation as a deposit on our checking account. Well, how I like to kind of talk about it on my support calls with folks is that even at the time that the deposit is made at the bank doesn't know that the check is insufficient. Okay, so what makes these types of entries or occurrences different than others is the bank doesn't adjust the original deposit. They record and have that show as a withdrawal on the bank statement that shows out usually typically several days, couple days after the original deposit. They wind up posting an entry that shows that the amount of that insufficient check was then deducted from the church's checking account. And so in order to make our bank reconciliation process more accurate, that's what we're trying to mirror in church windows when that occurs. So while yes, okay, technically entering donations and then posting it into transferring it into accounting, it's a two-step process. The process of recording and handling an NSF donation check is absolutely a two-step process, but the process of what we do in donations versus what we're going to do in accounting is where things differ greatly, okay? So as the document talks about there at the top on the first page, it says go to donations and browse, find the giver whose check is insufficient, and then, or has the check was NSF, and then it says highlight the line on the donation that needs to be reversed, click reverse in NSF, reverse donation screen opens, leave it as the original date, check reverse due to non-sufficient funds, and click OK and transfer. So I've got a batch entered here for August 28th. And I'm gonna do both of these to show you how it will show up if we transfer the correction into donations versus how it should be posted in accounting. Okay, so we're going to say here, Chris Day, his gift to the general fund, check number 76749 on August 28th for $100 was insufficient. Okay, so we were notified, say September 1st or sometime later on that check was insufficient. So how we deal with that in donations is we're going to highlight that transaction. We're going to click right up here at the upper right where it says reverse in NSF. We're going to leave this as the original date of 8/28, and we're going to enter comments if we want. Check was insufficient or NSF, and we're going to check the reverse due to NSF insufficient fund, non-sufficient fund status. So we're going to check that box, and then we're going to click OK and transfer. Okay. So it says permanently reverse. Checking the reverse due to non-sufficient fund status, folks. This is really important to understand. The giver does not see that ever at all. Okay, that is only for internal working or internal purposes that we check that box in case you want to go in and query on, looking for insufficient fund entries throughout the year, but the giver never sees that it's reversed due to non-sufficient or NSF status, okay? So we're going to click yes on the permanently reverse, and then we click OK when it's been reversed. So now we're going to walk through how we will post this correctly, okay, first, because I want to show you the difference in terms of how it appears. Okay, so here's our 8/28 gift for Chris, and notice it shows up as a negative $100, all right? So what that would do is if we transferred that over, it would show up as a negative $100 on our Huntington Bank checking and a deduction or a debit to the general tithes and offerings account with a date of 8/28. Well, that's not how the bank statement records that, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to simply put a check mark in the box, do not transfer. But before we do that, we do want to make a note of what the debit and the credit accounts are, because that's what we're going to then manually fix in accounting, okay? So then we're going to check do not transfer. We're saying we're not transferring this correction into accounting or this reversal, okay? Our work now, notice it takes Chris out of our batch totals. And then we're going to now minimize donations and we're going to come back into accounting now, okay? So now what the document talks about, it says right there after the bottom screenshot on the first page is after the donation is reversed, do not open the transfer. It opens the transfer donations to accounting. Check do not transfer. Don't have to save anything. It puts it into the do not transfer list automatically. And it explains, we do not want to transfer the reversal because it appears on the bank reconciliation as a negative amount as opposed on the deposits tab as opposed to withdrawal. It appears like it's a deposit adjustment, not a withdrawal. So it's really technically inaccurate. It does fix the accounts, but it is not how it occurred in reality, okay? And it says there, please note the NSF will appear as a withdrawal in the bank statement several days after the original deposit. That is critical information, okay? So now what it talks about is going into transactions, other here in accounting, and we're going to do adjust asset. You could do a journal entry, but the adjust asset transaction is a journal entry as well. So we'll follow the material here. And here we're going to choose, under the asset to adjust, we're going to choose our Huntington Bank checking. We're going to decrease it because we need to take the $100 out. Okay. So then we're going to come down here and we're going to put in $100. Okay. You could, folks, technically, if there was a fee associated or if the bank charged an NSF fee for you, you could actually include that. So if we did that, we could make this 110, okay? And here, let's say, and I did this, like I said, at the end of August deliberately. So because, say, 8/28 or 8/28 was just before, say, Labor Day holiday, maybe this didn't wind up clearing until after the Labor Day weekend. So maybe we're going to say that this wound up clearing on like September 2nd, okay, or whatever, whenever it occurred, okay, and we can enter comments, adjustment, if I could type today for NSF donation check, okay, and then down here we're going to choose our account and we're going to do our general tithes and offerings, and we're going to put in $100. Not 1,000, Josh, 100. And we're going to click the plus sign. And here we can do maybe bank fees. Okay, we've got a bank fees expense. So here's our bank fees. Now again, folks, this is all based on what appears on our bank statement. Okay, so if that was a $10 fee that my bank assessed on me, that's where I'm going to record that. So it's taking out 110 on my bank statement for a gift that was originally $100, but I need to adjust the initial general tithes and offerings lower, get that out because I don't have that money in my general fund anymore, okay? So now I can now safely post that, okay? So what will occur now is when I go into my bank reconciliation, okay, I would have to, choose my Huntington Bank account. We're going to begin a new bank rec and we're going to make that say September 30th. We're going to go to next. We're going to put in, our statement totals for the month of September. And then we're going to put in 146,56151. Got to just get through this. So we notice now when we go to our deposits, it doesn't show up as a negative $100 here on 8/28. It actually appears here under our withdrawals as a negative 110. We see it right there. So there's our negative 110. That's how it appears on our bank statement, okay? So as I said, I want to show you what happens if we don't do that correctly, okay? So if we go back into donations again and we go back into our browse, and I really shouldn't have closed out of that, but that's okay. It's not that hard to find, 8/28, 8/28, and click OK. We're going to say here that Hannah Oliver's $50 check was insufficient. We go to reverse an NSF, check reverse due to insufficient funds, entering any desired comments, and now we're going to click OK and transfer. So now we click OK and OK again, and now we're going to say we are going to transfer this in. This is what you should not do, folks, okay? We're not going to post check do not transfer, but we are going to post. So then this is a very common mistake that occurs when folks post these into accounting. I want to now have you see what that looks like on our bank reconciliation. So now when we go into bank rec and we bring up the Huntington Bank checking account, and we're going to look at August, and we go to next and go to deposits, we now see down near the bottom we have the original deposit of $16.65, but then we also see a negative $50. So see, that's what I mean about how this, when we transfer these in, it's not exactly how it mirrors it on the bank statement. It is not a reduction from the deposit. It is an actual withdrawal. So that's what stresses the importance of when you have these insufficient fund transactions. If we really, really want to keep in line with what the bank statement is doing, this deposit remains unaffected, still shows up on the statement as $16.65, but then we would jump over to the withdrawals in whichever month that occurred in, post that entry, and clear that withdrawal on the bank statement or statement period when the actual money was withdrawn. So in this case, in our example here, it actually happened in September. Now, nothing says I have to clear the negative 50 in August here, okay? So if you really did want to handle it this way, you could, but you just have to be aware that this is not how it's going to appear on the bank statement. It's not appearing as a deposit adjustment, it's an actual withdrawal, okay? And don't forget that the 110 that we posted didn't happen on the bank statement in August. It happened in September. So again, this is where those dates and issues and how these are handled become really, really, really important, because, again, we're trying to make the bank reconciliation process as easy and simple and accurate as possible. Yes, my general ties and offerings is being adjusted and my cash account is being adjusted in both of the ways that I've transferred this over. But it becomes a little more convoluted and less clear when I transfer over those negative donations amounts versus just having it show up as a withdrawal, the way it should be done properly, okay? So yeah, okay, the 1665 shows on my August statement as cleared, but then all of a sudden, I'm now reconciling September, and I'm showing a withdrawal for $110 for an insufficient funds check. Well, then I now go into my September statement, as I've clearly done, after I've done that journal entry, debiting the general ties and offerings, debiting my bank fees expense, and crediting my bank account for 110, I've now got a withdrawal that exactly matches my bank statement while also correctly adjusting those accounts. Okay? So I hope that offers some clarification on how to deal with NSF checks or NSF donation entries in terms of how you handle those both in donations and accounting, folks. So I'm going to leave our topic there for today.